I would like to give my views on the issue of the land or the land question because there's a lot going on that a lot of us do not understand, and those who understand do not understand better because there are different views when it comes to the land question. And the economic freedom fighters, I think it's becoming more and more neutral and lenient on this issue. That is my view. Now, I have few questions on this topic of the land, uh, because other than the land that is within the hands of white people in South Africa, there, there is the land that we have in rural areas, which is idling. Now, if we are to say that white people must bring back our land, my question is, and it doesn't mean that I'm against people who say white people must bring back our land. But my question now is, what are we going to do with the land that we are failing to do now? That is my question. That if white people can give us the land that we are saying that it's ours, what are we going to do with it? That which we cannot do with the land that is not occupied now. Because sometimes I think that our politicians are trying to come up with hot topics to score political points and do nothing about these topics. Because if government is serious about this issue of the land, why are they not financing young black people who want to farm or those who are in farming, so that even some of us who are not into farming can be inspired to use the pieces of land that are scattered and idling from where we come from? The land that our grandparents used to farm on, that land is still there, but we're doing nothing about it. We're doing nothing with that land. And we are here supporting the struggles about the land. So I don't know whether this is just a talk show or politicians seek relevance, but I believe strongly that we are not ready to occupy the land that we are saying that it has been stolen. And yes, it is being used by white people for their own gain, and they create some employment and exploit black people. But how many farms that are owned or that are there which are owned by black people that are succeeding and competing whites? And what is government doing about this? This is an issue which I think we should discuss more than discussing the land question. Because the land question, I think it lacks practicality. That is my view. And I think politicians are not ready to put in resources so that our people, or us, we black people, can be tried and tested on the land that we have now. For example, where I come from, I'll speak for where I come from. There's vast majority of land that is idling. That land was used by white people to farm. But now we are here, we are old, with all the resources to seek information. But we're not using that land. But when we are in our different political affiliations or political parties, we speak so strong about this land issue, but we are failing to even use the land in our backyard. The gardens are no longer functional in rural villages. Now, what is government saying? Because even the ANC comes to the party to say uh, there must be a resolution on the land, but they are in power, and there's that Department of Agriculture which is doing nothing. I don't know if maybe it's helping white people only, but I think it's doing nothing. So, what are we saying as black people? I cannot say young people, but as black people as we are, what are we saying about the land that we have? We cannot speak about rain because there are farms where there's no rain, but they have the means of irrigation. So, what is it that fails majority of black people to use the few percents of land that we own? Because the majority of the land that is owned by white people that we want, it's functional. But in the minority of the land that we own, majority of that minority land is not functional. So I have this question of why do we want to infiltrate the lands of the white when or while we fail to make the land that we have now to be productive? When we talk about land, we're talking about going to occupy some 20 meters, 20 square meters, and build shacks and create squatter camps and destroy the beauty of Johannesburg or Gauteng. Is that what we are talking about? Maybe, or maybe it's all about farming and building industries, factories for us to work and have legacies. Because it seems like people who claim to understand and support this ideology are people who just want to occupy small pieces of Johannesburg, especially here in Johannesburg, and create squatter camps and make sure that all the new developments loses value. Maybe that is the strategy. But looking at the bigger picture, I think black people are not interested. That is my view. It can be up for discussion, argument, or debate. So if there are people who believe or strongly believe that I'm clueless about this, then they should educate me. I'm more open and ready to be educated because there are a lot of reads in the internet, a lot of books. Advocate Tembeka Ngwaitobi, I think, has published the second one now, if not the third. The former Deputy Chief Justice, Tekgang Moseneke, I think, has a book on the land, and all other authors and politicians have written about the land. So there's the literature part, the legal roads, but there's this practicality and reality that we don't want to talk about when it comes to the land question. Are we ready to use the land if we say white people must vacate? Do we have the necessary resources? I understand others will argue and say, no, we do have the necessary resources. Our people are the ones who are working on farms or in farms and factories. So white people must go and our people must continue to work. My question is, under whose leadership? If that is the case, under whose leadership? Because we cannot say that We're going to employ CEOs of these farms when white people are no longer there. But what knowledge do we have about uh, trade, or the trade and about trading? You know, import and export. Are our people well equipped in terms of knowledge in that industry? Are we going to be able to export uh, the productions, these fruits and veggies that will be produced in these farms? Are we going to maintain the level of production that white people are at or are in now if we could take over these lands? When it comes to the mines, are we well connected as black people or ready to establish such connections? And who are we willing to put there to lead us run these mines when these white people are no longer there? The banks, although these institutions are exploiting black people, but are black people strategic enough and ready enough consciously to run these establishments? I currently I don't think so, because none it's very few of us who are discussing these issues. And I think we must challenge ourselves to be ready, but we must start somewhere. It seems like we love and enjoy to occupy spaces of businesses that which are well established. We don't want to start over. So I think when it comes to the land, there's still a lot that we need to do, or government need to do, because government itself is failing. A lot of our parents and grandparents are struggling with just cows in rural villages. Government will predict that no, there won't be rain for the next 8 months, and then there will be problems and things like that, or there's some diseases which is coming, but they will fail to vaccinate. They will fail to come up with new irrigation systems for the existing farms of black people. But we are saying that no, government is supporting this call. But I believe and I know that they are not. So when it comes to the land question or the land issue, I think even the education system of South Africa needs to be changed, because it doesn't prepare us for anything. You grow up clueless. You finish your matric without any skill. Like you know nothing after finishing matric. So it's a problem. So when it comes to the land, I think yeah, we need to be more focused and do a lot of research and be more equipped, well equipped and ready, and start at least within our backyards, our gardens, and learn to grow cabbage and carrots and sell to our neighbors who will be growing spinach and things like that, and try to learn this trade before we will say we are ready to occupy the farms. No, no, no.